In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Zack Hanebrink. He's a seasoned SaaS marketing leader and fractional CMO with over 2 decades of comprehensive marketing experience, including more than 10 years specializing in SaaS growth strategies. Throughout his career, Zack has successfully driven marketing initiatives for rapidly scaling SaaS startups, as well as prominent Fortune 500 SaaS enterprises. As a co-founder of HookLead, a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping SaaS companies achieve predictable and scalable growth, Zack guides CEOs and founders in creating powerful, data-driven marketing systems. And that's what we all want. And I'm happy to have you on the show today, Zack. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of changes in marketing, not just SaaS, but in marketing in general. What do you think is besides the obvious, the AI, the AI bubble that we're in right now? Let's just talk about maybe tactics and techniques. What's changed over that time?
Yeah, honestly, not a whole lot has changed in regards to tactics. Well, I'll take that back. Actually, AI is disrupting more. It's disrupting a lot of the tactics and techniques. For example, like obviously the age of AI, using it and stuff, but it's bleeding across to Google search. So it's having an impact on people's organic traffic. So you're having to pivot a little bit to include the impact of AI and make sure that not only you're prepared for it, but that you kind of know how to navigate around it, because some of the tactics aren't as effective as they used to be, or they require like a different approach than they used to. Other than that, the tried and true stuff of know your audience, and all that stuff is still the same.
Yeah, I like that. This idea, the generative engine optimization, I think that's really interesting. As we've seen, Google traffic dip under 90% of search, right? And what are you seeing as best practices in that respect in terms of optimizing for LLMs as well as for Google? What are you doing?
Yeah, so really, one small shift that we've had to take from a content strategy is thinking less about like optimizing content for specific keywords, but really just go back to who you're targeting, who your audience is, and for example, like what kind of questions are they asking? What kind of information are they looking for, and when are they looking for it, and why are they looking for it? So giving information that way, as opposed to via like a keyword or something like that, more of about what are their challenges, what do they need help with, how are they searching for it, what kind of answers are they looking for, and taking that approach versus a keyword first approach.
Well, and I think the coolest thing about that particular process is that you can a professional marketer can spend an hour with their favorite LLM and ask the questions into the LLM and start to build the structure and the plan for that, through that process, even before they bring it to somebody like you or I, the agency side, and get the kind of the next dimension of help. And I think that's what's, I hate the word democratization, but that's really what's happened. It's kind of leveled out that research process. Yeah. And if you can get an hour out of your day to interact in a structured way with the LLMs, you have, it's like $1,000 worth of consulting. Well, I'm interested to kind of get your playbook on SaaS startups, because there are so many new tools that people are developing with these these interesting software environments like Lovable. Um, what do you? First of all, are you seeing any projects coming an MVP or a prototype out of Lovable or something similar to that?
No, I have seen where it's kind of like different startups are taking the AI but bleeding it into very specific niches. So, for example, I talked to a gentleman last week that is looking at speeding up the process or the time for clinical trials. Because again, like
Oh,
AI,
yep.
it makes sense. AI could really help you with that. So it's really they're taking it and they're putting it in deep into different verticals, different niches within SaaS. Using it that way is
Yep.
what I'm seeing.
That's cool. Well, talk to me a little bit about what's the first few steps in your playbook for a startup in SaaS or in just a regular business. What's kind of your playbook
Yeah,
there?
so really it's we do strategy first, and all that is really dictated from getting to know who we're marketing to, what makes them ticks, what their goals, challenges, pain points, what they're asking, where they're researching, kind of what their buyer's journey look like, and then mapping a strategy around that. Because that'll tell us like what channels we need to use, what kind of core messages we need to put together to reach them, to resonate. And that's really where we start. And AI can help speed up that process as well because for example, like if you want to get to know like what does the market say, what's important to them, you can load up reviews from G2 and Capterra and stuff like that, and have AI
Yeah,
sift through and figure out
love it.
like what are these people saying, what's important to them, and then you could take that and bake it back into your core message.
Well, I think that's a smart process. I love
Yeah.
it. As far as uh, building fundamental messaging, right? Until you have clients to start polling. That's a cool process. So I hear those good strong fundamentals, which is critical. What's kind of the next phase after that? Like, how do you start testing messaging and start building a user base for a new SaaS?
Yeah, so the user base is going to come from the channels that we find, and also the budgets that they have. So, for example, not every growing SaaS is going to have 100,000 a month to spend on Google Ads, um, but
Right.
maybe that might not be the best way to reach their market. It could be cold email or LinkedIn, or whatever. And then from there, it's really taking those core messages and getting to market to test. So, for example, where can we build data quickly? Like Google Ads, you could test one core message versus another, test out the core message
Yep.
on the landing page, and really, it's just trimming it down to what you want to put out there and see how does it resonate, and you'll know pretty quickly if it's resonating or not. A good copy versus bad copy is pretty easy to spot with the data.
Yeah. What for pay-per-click ads like that? What do you see as a click-through rate and a conversion rate? What are good numbers for you right
Man,
now?
that varies all over the place. So I guess like industry benchmarks for B2B SaaS, conversion rate is about 1 to 2%. So that's always
Yeah.
like we get excited if we get that as a baseline. Most of the time, I mean, we have campaigns that can get all the way up to 20%, but I'd say on average, I'm seeing more of like probably a 2 to 7% conversion rate. It really just kind of depends on the industry itself within. So, for example, like
Yep.
some are just real competitive, and the cost per click might be like $50. So obviously, you're going to have lower conversion rates. It's kind of related to the ticket
Yeah.
price. If it's a small ticket
Understood.
item,
Yeah.
then
Oh, and then do you leverage the social media ads too, like Meta, Instagram, and TikTok,
yeah.
as well as the Google ads?
Yeah, so we made a shift in our agency a few years ago. And really, it came down to trying all the things for clients and running all the ads, building lots of data, and then talking to our clients and figuring out like, okay, we generate all these leads. Where's the quality coming from? The quality came from anything that's search based, like Google Ads. People are looking for something, they find it. We have a lot of success with LinkedIn as well, not as much as Google Ads.
Yep.
We stopped doing Meta, we stopped doing Facebook and all that stuff. We found, at least for the people that we're representing, the higher ticket, it was just a lot of junk leads. You'd have a lot of, quote
Uh,
unquote leads that they don't remember filling out forms and stuff like that. So we try to get,
yeah,
title or query based is where the quality mostly comes from.
yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, B2B obviously has got. Um, if you're catching B2B clients sometimes on Instagram, you might be catching them after dinner when they're
Yeah.
relaxing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Plus they've had to make so many options or changes within their targeting. So for example, like the way that we could target, 6 years ago is a lot different than the way that you can target now. So I guess with all the stuff
Yeah,
that they had to go through as a social media company, they had to remove some of those layers, which makes targeting less effective.
right. Yeah, I hear you. Um, well, that's cool. What are you seeing for video and video sales letter? Anything in
Yeah,
that?
that is ramping up because even LinkedIn, if you've noticed, is going all in on video. Even their
Yeah,
mobile app, they have a specific tab that looks like, TikTok or Instagram with all the videos and stuff.
yeah,
Um, and if you think about it, like when you're scrolling in any type of social media, video is what usually stops you in your track. We like seeing people. And so it works, the engagement, people are watching the videos. It's just a really good way to kind of stop people in their tracks and get their attention and get that human, across too, and not just, you know, happy smiley pictures and text and stuff like that.
yeah. I think if there's one common error that I see with tech companies and SaaS companies is that they're really super focused on product and engineering
Yeah.
and all the bland stuff, and sometimes they don't even have an about section with pictures of the humans,
It's
right? Like,
rare.
uh, it is it's just a funny misstep. It's same thing like in restaurants, they don't have a customer list. Like as an
Hmm.
industry, like I never get an email from a restaurant. The SaaS companies, it's so rare to have the humans represented, and I think massive error for the marketing side, and that's where I think the video and even just podcast video for every SaaS startup would be a genius move that would be a differentiator
Yeah,
instantly.
agreed.
Well, let's see. So what kind of are there certain tools that you like working with as clients better, or is there a certain niche inside of SaaS that you've developed, Zach?
Yeah, inside of SaaS, I like working with B2B. We do B2C as well, but B2B I like because especially higher ticket B2B, because with SaaS, like you have the whole funnel to get, a prospect in, but then there's that whole spot after the demo, like what happens after the demo.
Yeah,
I feel marketing
right,
bleeds right into sales where it's hand in hand in that spot because, if you're selling a high ticket item, chances of closing that deal in the first demo is probably pretty unlikely. And nobody wants
right.
a salesperson to just keep following up like, hey, are you going to buy? Hey, you're going to buy? That's where marketing steps in and, putting together collateral again that goes back to what do they need to hear, what do they need to learn in order to buy, so putting those collateral pieces together, putting that messaging together to help kind of shorten that sales process as well for them.
Yeah, I mean the kind of the general industry information on B2B sales is 7 to 10 hours of self
Yeah,
education, and then you add a committee of 3 to 5 people, and
exactly.
right, all different learning styles.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at now is when you mentioned those 3 to 5 people, those are 3 to 5 potential decision makers, so
Yep.
it's like, one, how can we try to get everybody in the same call if possible? But two, all these different cooks that are in the kitchen, they want to see different things. One person might be numbers focused, one person might be ROI focused, one person might be like,
Yeah.
how much time does it save? How does it help the team? Stuff like that. So you almost need different messaging, different collateral for each one of those people. Because you could have 4 different people to
Yep.
convince and they all have different reasons why they're talking to you. So
Absolutely, and totally different ways they make decisions, like you said.
yeah.
So,
And then
um,
too, I read
I
an
think
article recently that you were talking, kind of going off the point you were talking about. They related it to touch points too. how many touch
Right.
points, and they related it to kind of like the ARR value. So like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 a year, and how many touch points it takes to close a deal like that. And
Yeah.
it was in the hundreds. It was like 200 to 700 touch points, depending on, kind of what that ending price tag on, which makes you think like, okay, well, we need to be strategic with these touch points. They're going to get them one way or the other, but the more you can control those, the faster you can get the sale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other interesting thing about business in this time is that you really have got 4 generations of people that you're working with now,
Yeah.
right? You got boomers, X, millennials, and Zs. And in that generational landscape, completely different needs, focuses, and psychographics. And it's almost too complicated.
And different attention spans too.
For sure. And then you got, the Z's and young millennials are doing the research, and the X and boomers are the ones, and old millennials are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah.
So, you got to factor in that part too, which is, it's an interesting little puzzle.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, talk to me a little bit about your personal tech stack and about what AI tools you're using in your daily activities for work. You got any good tips for
Yeah,
me?
so I've gotten big into creating custom GPTs for very specific things. So, for
Yeah,
example, like obviously we'll create a custom GPT for a client. We can load up all their industry persona and all that information, but then custom GPTs even for certain things that I do. So, for example, like one that is trained on only writing LinkedIn content for a specific industry with a specific tone.
nice.
Another one that
Yep.
is like, hey, we have in marketing, we have all this data and all these reports, but it could take a long time to analyze it and slice it. So, creating a GPT that can do that for you. You just upload the reports and tell it the KPIs and different things you want to see, how you want it to analyze, and it can do that. So, lots of different GPTs for lots of different things. You can create them on the strategy side too, which really what I've been using a lot lately is thinking like creating a custom GPT for the strategy side, but thinking it as not AI, but more of like a sounding board to where you can say like, here's my ideas, and you're kind of going back and forth, and you can really take the idea
Right.
generation and speed up the process a lot, especially on the research side. Instead of going through all these links, they have like deep research and all this stuff. So I'll just create a bunch of different GPTs for very specific tasks and very specific reasons.
I love that, and I think that's a great takeaway. The custom GPT is where the gold is right now. I think for us as
Yeah,
individual
it
performers.
is. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that. I'm seeing companies kind of taking that and run with it, where they'll say, hey, essentially they're doing custom GPTs, but they're doing it, like I said, they're going real niche for a vertical, and it's like, hey, we'll set up this thing for this and that. But it's still kind of the same principle, custom GPT.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. And there's finally products now too that are commercially available that are HIPAA compliant
Yeah.
and have security built in, right? So that legal and medical can start leveraging these tools as
Yeah,
well.
and then I'm seeing like where these tools are hosted is also coming into play. Cloud based is great for some, but some companies want to own that and they'll have an internal. So
Yeah,
like where these things sit,
absolutely.
is also another conversation for these companies.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Um, well, Zach, I love the work you're doing. I love our conversation. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Sorry, I lost you for a second there.
Yeah, no, I just had a little glitch there. If I want to say I appreciate the conversation. Sheesh.
Yeah, I got to the last part. Yeah, they can reach me out on LinkedIn. That's probably the best part. I'm pretty active there, and also that my contact is information there, more information on our websites and how to reach me and how to connect, stuff like that. LinkedIn's a good spot for me.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. Thanks for joining, and hang on for a second. Let me close this out, and we'll say goodbye properly.
Cool, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Zach, and what a great takeaway. as far as creating custom GPTs for very niche activity that you're doing, for specifically for LinkedIn, specifically for cold email, specifically for cold research that you're doing on what your competition is engaged in. So I hope that you take some time today to dig in and either find a new tool or spend some time with an existing tool and find a way for AI to save you some time from your workday, and that you take that time to either upskill and get smarter in what you're doing, or that you spend it with your friends, your family, and get outside and enjoy some time in nature. It's Emmanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn.